Welcome to episode 16 of the Iowa Girls Wrestling Stories podcast. Today, I'd like to welcome Leah Chandler. Presently, she is at Wartburg College and she wrestled high school at Chariton in Iowa. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Real good. Today was your first ever college tournament. You don't look too beat up, so that's good. How did everything go today?
It was pretty good. It was definitely felt a lot different because we had so many girls there supporting because we have about like 35 on the team, I think. And so there was always at least 10 girls mat side. And so that really helped a lot. And I was definitely nervous, but once again, like because all the girls were there and watching and supporting, it just kind of made the nerves shut off a little bit more and just kind of, it felt pretty good. But I'm definitely excited to continue and get better.
Now, where was this tournament at? It was in Wisconsin, but which college?
Stevens Point.
Stevens Point. Okay. So you wrestled some girls from North Central today.
Yeah.
One of the top teams in the country. If I think King is rated first, but it must be right around third is where North Central's sitting at this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no shame in that. And then you ended up having to wrestle teammates for the first time in your career. What was that like? A little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. So I definitely like the North Central matches. I tried not to get into my head too much, but once again, I was just like so nervous that I think it just was inevitable. And so I just think I need to be more out of my head during those matches and whatnot. And then the teammate matches, I was really like, I don't know, like how much do I try? How hard do I go? But I just knew that no matter what, I just needed to wrestle my best. So then I can learn from any mistakes I made, and then also just see where I'm at my weight on the team because we have, I think, 5 girls total at 124.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so I knew that no matter what, I was going to have to wrestle hard those matches to see kind of where I'm standing with the team and whatnot. So it was definitely an experience, but it was pretty fun. And the girls, none of us took it to heart. So that helped a lot also.
I'll tell you, your first college tournament experience is way better than mine. I ended up my very first match was against a guy from Northern Iowa, and I was in an NAIA school, not very good at the time. And boy, I that was probably the biggest beat down I've ever had in my lifetime. So I'm glad you came out of your first tournament with some wins. That's got to help, even though it's teammates. But I'll tell you, that's another thing with, having so many people at one weight in depth. That's where you do earn your spot is in those open tournaments. That's where they kind of find that out. And it sucks to wrestle teammates, but it's part of the sport. So Wartburg College, how are you liking college?
So good. I was blessed enough to get put into a suite dorm with about 5 other wrestlers on the team, and so that helped introduce me to my team a lot and helped me spend more time with them. But and a lot of them have the same major as me, and so that also was very helpful because I was very stressed out in high school. I got good grades, but I never studied because it just came naturally to me. But once I got to college, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to pick it up. And so they all have the same either science major or some type of like pre-dental major or pre-med. And so that that really helped a lot. And then also, like I said, the team is just so big that there's so many different personalities and so many just different people on our team that has made it really like feel like a family really fast.
That's really cool. What is your major?
I'm a biology pre-dental major.
Biology pre-dental. That's big goals, lofty goals, but that's good. I mean, you'll be able to definitely support yourself when you're done with that. So no, that's
Hopefully.
good. That's a great ambition. You said you visited several schools and stuff in the recruiting process. I'd like to talk a little bit about just the whole recruiting process itself because there's a lot of girls that are, seniors this year and juniors and seniors looking at going to college and what are some of the things that you found throughout the process and then ultimately why you chose Wartburg.
Mhm. So, because women's wrestling was so new and they're trying to grow their teams and stuff. I had a lot of emails from different schools trying to get me recruited onto their teams and stuff. And so that helped a lot with me like choosing what colleges to go to, which for like what colleges were reaching out and stuff.
Mhm.
But I also knew that they had women's wrestling, which was one of my main like they have to have women's wrestling for me to go. And so I was really like nitpicky with what colleges I wanted to visit because I had to have my major and women's wrestling. And since it was so new, like not many big colleges had that. And so I really had to search through all the colleges that were emailing me and stuff. And so my parents just kept encouraging me to go on visits to every college because worst that can happen is you just don't like it or you just don't feel fit. But I also every time I went on a visit was like taking notes of things that I would like and wouldn't like in a college. And so that really helped when I came to Wartburg. It was one of my last visits actually. And so I had a really big list of like things I like in a college and things I don't like in a college. And so I was evaluating a lot when I got here, but it was just like it checked all my boxes, and there was definitely it's like a smaller school, and so I'm used to that because my school had like 100 in our class or whatever, and so that was also another thing is I just didn't want to be too overwhelmed. And so when I came here and saw that it was a little bit smaller than the other schools that I had visited, but it still felt like big enough to where I was going to feel comfortable. That was also one of the big things. But Brady was also really encouraging with his recruitment. Like he wasn't ever pushy. He was just like, oh, like how'd this go? Or like asking how I'm doing and stuff like that. Like just making like small conversations, but like they were really meaningful to me because it was just like he actually like cared and took the time out of his day, and he's busy recruiting so many other girls that it just made me feel like really good. And that just like kept continuing every single time I would come and visit or I would go to a tournament with college girls or college teams. He would always just stop and have a normal conversation with me. I was never feeling intimidated. And so it was a lot of really good things that build up, but you just have to keep going to different colleges and keep putting yourself in that environment so then you know what you would want and what you don't want. And so I would just say that was one of the really big things is just I had a list of like pros and cons for every college, and Wartburg just kept building up all the pros every time I visited or came to meet or something. So it was definitely a long process, but because I didn't commit until I want to say like late February. And so I'm so indecisive also. And so it was so hard to say no to people and just to keep putting up more options because I was just like, I have too many already. I cannot handle this. But yeah, so it was definitely a long process, but it was worth it all in the end because I really am liking Wartburg.
That's good. It sounds like you really, really took your time and did your due diligence on that. I always tell people, it's going to feel like home, right? And I'm assuming Wartburg felt like home compared to the rest of the schools.
Yeah.
And kind of cool that you felt like coach was real, he was concerned, it wasn't a salesmanship and stuff like that. So that's that was definitely a good thing. Glad they had your major. I've talked to people who have gone to college and then they didn't actually even have the major they wanted. So it's important. Sounds like you did a great job in going through all that process. What is the biggest difference you've found in the wrestling room though, from being small town Chariton to a room full of girls?
Yeah, so our team in Chariton, we had our most was about 9 girls, but we had one other girl that was like within 10 pounds from me, and all the girls were fairly new, and so it was I think it was helpful for me to like go through the foundations and stuff and just kind of help them out. But my coach always wanted to push me, and so I always had to wrestle my coach, and he's a 175-pound man. And
Yeah.
so it was definitely like a challenge in itself. But once I came to Wartburg, like I said, I have like 5 girls or 4 girls at my weight, and there's so many other girls that are also around my weight. That's just made it so easy to experience different styles while at practice, because normally in high school I would just have to wait till competition to see different styles and to wrestle different people.
Yeah.
But in the room, I get so many different girls, and I can choose to wrestle whoever, and we're all so close with each other already that it just helps a lot because everybody's comfortable with each other. And I we have open wrestling practices every now and then, and so I have so many girls that I can just go in and scrap with. And so I think that's probably the biggest change, is just the diversity of the type of wrestling in the room.
Yep.
And so I've really liked that a lot, because I'm gonna experience a lot more different styles of wrestling while in college and competing. And so I liked that a lot.
Very nice. Yeah. And have you noticed, are you learning? I'm sure that you go through things in practice, and of course you're learning freestyle, most of you big, folk style backgrounds getting changed over. But I found in the college rooms that you really learn from your teammates, maybe even more than your coaches. You pick things up from them that you hadn't seen before. And the coaches are directing, but your teammates really have those little nuances and stuff that, maybe you're not going to pick up exactly what they're doing, but you know how to defend it now. You learn how to defend that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. That's something I really liked about a college room compared to a high school room. Yeah, it's tough having not a lot of people in your weight in a high school room, and then you being maybe at a different level, because you tend to become a coach a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You're coaching and stuff, which it's great for them and their development, but it's hard for your development. And then to end up wrestling your coach who's 50 pounds heavier, makes it for long practices, I'm sure. Yeah. So obviously your plans coming out of college would be go to dental school. Is that right? Where do you think?
Yeah.
University of Iowa?
Yeah.
Are you gonna save that one year for the transfer and everything? Or are we just gonna get done at Wartburg all 4 and then transfer and just concentrate on dental school?
Well, I have been working on doing the National Guard and stuff. This upcoming summer I'm going to go to basic for the National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just my plan is just to jump right on into it, because they'll pay for my first year at dental school. And so my hope is that I just keep going, because my focus will already be on school. And I feel if I take a little gap year, then I'll be like, whew, maybe this breath of fresh air is a little too nice. But
understand that. So
yeah.
is that Megan Black influence down there getting you into the guard?
Oh yeah, she's been so good with it, because she's had experience wrestling, and she's had experience with, now that she's a coach at William Penn.
Yep.
There's a bunch of different girls on the team that also do it. And so she's been really helpful with that process, because I was really, really nervous and hesitant, because I was like, I'm going to be so busy with college, so busy with wrestling. Like, I don't know if I have time to fit it in, but she's just made it work, and also just helped me along with the process so well. And so, yeah, I'm really thankful that she was there from the beginning, and that's been a long process as well, but the slow one wins the race, or whatever they say.
Right. Yeah, no, I tell you, Megan Black she's an exceptional person. I've gotten to know her over the years too and stuff. And yeah, she's great. And then, maybe someday we'll see in that WCAP program, that would be really cool to see some of you guys, girls, not guys, girls move into some of those post college, teams and stuff. That would be really neat. So we kind of figured out where you're at right now. Let's go all the way back to when you started wrestling. Chariton's had, girls prior to you. Emma Cochran was a wrestler, did fairly well. I don't know she might've been about the first that I knew of, but where did you get started?
So yeah, Emma Cochran was such a big influence for me. Jamie Cochran, her dad at the time was, I think, the men's coach.
Yep.
And so I did it a little bit when I was younger, but it was more just like my parents sent me there, get me a little energy out and whatnot. And so I really never like excelled at it when I was little. And so I only did it for like a year. And then once I saw Emma started like doing pretty well and whatnot, she was a really big inspiration to me, because I remembered when I was young I was doing it and I was like, I can do this. Like I don't know what I'm all worried about. I'm just gonna try something new. Not many. I think she was the only girl at the time doing it. And she was, once again, like you said, like one of the first girls at Chariton. And so I just thought that was a really big inspiration. And so I just wanted to try it out. And so I tried it in seventh grade again. And I also played basketball, but I broke my foot in basketball, so I took that as a hint not to play basketball anymore.
Were
But
you good at basketball?
I was okay for middle school, but
Okay.
I don't know if I would have went anywhere with it. So it wasn't too big of a heartbreak, and I really enjoyed the team. Even though I was the only girl, the boys still really made me feel welcome. And so that was also another really helpful thing, was just, even though I was the only girl, the boys still were there for me and supporting me. And yeah, it was a really good experience. And so that was just where when I fell in love with it, was I just started in seventh grade, and then after that I wrestled until now. And
Until
so
today, right now.
yep.
That's awesome. Um, I think the first time I ran into you was at Coraville. It would have been the third and fourth place match
Yes.
against Jolynn that you had. And so I sat in the opposite corner of you, and you just destroyed us with a double leg. And your double leg has always been maybe your signature. And then I think you wrestled at AAU State also, same exact
Mhm.
thing. And then the funny thing is, I was like, why does she keep cutting people? Why isn't she, wrestling on top? And then I got the opportunity to coach you in Florida, and you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing on top.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, it makes sense now. So how has your top game progressed since wrestling Jolynn?
Yeah, so when I started my freshman and sophomore year and my seventh and eighth grade year, I was wrestling guys because it wasn't sanctioned yet. And so I was never stronger than the guys. And every time I got on bottom, I never got up. And anytime I got on top, it never went well for me. And so my coach really just like drilled stuff on my feet and neutral. And so I worked on the double leg so much all the time. And it just worked almost every single time that I could get there. And it didn't matter the strength that of the other person, as long as I just drove in with it and finished all the way through, then I would get the takedown. And so definitely it changed a little bit, because since girls wrestling got sanctioned, all the other girls were picking up a little bit more, and so it wasn't as easy to get to the legs. And so I had to work a little bit more on my top and bottom wrestling. And definitely wasn't like my star position, but I had to do it. And so my coach would always put me on bottom during practices, because that's what I had to work on. And so I would just work on that all the time. And it helped, but like I said, like it still wasn't my star position. And so once I started freestyle again, I fell in love with freestyle, because I was like, I don't
It,
have to do too much.
it fits your style of wrestling almost perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Uh, your mom uh, obviously saw a need also, and so I've been talking to a lot of people in the last month or so. Your mom came in and was an assistant coach on your team, wasn't she?
Yeah.
What was it like having mom in the room with you?
She thought it was definitely different than any other, because all my other sports, my parents were never involved, and it was just my school. But my mom was, she always knew that she could never say too much to me, because I'd be like, I would just
Yeah.
brush it off. And but she definitely, it was definitely very helpful to know that I had that support. And she had managed in, when she was in high school, and so she already knew like the basics and stuff, and she had been watching me from my 7th and 8th grade year. And so that was also really helpful to her learning, and she was kind of just learning with me. And so it was really nice to have her there all the time, and knowing that she was there supporting me. And she's really friendly with everybody, and so all the new girls that would join, she would help them out whenever. We had a girl on our team last year who was a 235-pounder, and my mom would wrestle with her, and my mom
Nice.
is about 130 pounds. So
Yeah.
it was, she's just open to anything, and she's always been supportive of anything. And so it helped a lot, just knowing that she was always there, and she always paid for all my tournaments, and she always pushed for me to go to different tournaments. And whether I was nervous or not, she's like, this will help you. And so I liked it a lot. It was definitely a change, but it shaped me into the wrestler I am.
Well, I'm sure she'll watch this, and I bet if she doesn't, make sure you tell her that I'm thankful that there's moms like her that step up, because that's a big difference. And I think it's important to have more female coaching, and it's just because there's things that come up throughout the year that, I've been doing this for about 10 years with girls, and sometimes there's still uncomfortable situations, especially when I maybe
Yeah.
don't know them as well as some of the, the older girls, like, a Tatum and an Izzy. They could say anything because I've been around them for 8 years. It was just like having a daughter in the room. But I'm thankful for the moms that are seeing a need and stepping up. So make sure you let her know how that we applaud her and those like her. So
Yeah, and she didn't even get like the official position. She was just always there, helping. Even if she wasn't tagged as assistant coach, she was still there assistant coaching,
yeah,
whether she was the assistant coach or not. So it was really nice.
yeah, that is. It's cool to have. I've talked to a lot of people who've had that experience of the parent with them, and I think it's a I think you create a different bond as daughter parent, but now you have that daughter coach and bond also. So that's really cool. Um, you did a lot of wrestling outside of high school wrestling and throughout your career. Um, I know you wrestled some AAU stuff, the AAU State Series, Twin Rivers, and going to Florida. Any of those things that really kind of in your mind kind of was a cool environment, cool thing to do. What did you like about those trips?
So my freshman year was, I wasn't very good my 7th and 8th grade years. Like, it wasn't, I never had a lot of confidence in myself with wrestling. But my freshman year, I think I kind of proved to myself that if I work at it and like work really hard, then I can reach my goals. And so having the opportunity to go to AAU State in itself was amazing. But then the fact that I won it, just it boosted my confidence so much, because that was my first, like one of my first big high school tournaments. And
Mm-hmm.
I just went out there and wrestled as hard as I could. And I did my best, and I came out with the goal that I wanted. And then off of that, I got to go to Florida, and that opportunity was just amazing. I had never wrestled with a team of girls before.
Uh-huh.
And so that was just, it was so fun having a trip to Florida in itself, and then also having a huge team of a bunch of other amazing girl wrestlers there with me. And so that was probably like the biggest turnaround point for me, was just I am capable of these awesome opportunities. I just have to keep working towards it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess a lot of you are still friends to this day from those trips. I have talked to some of them this week actually, and stuff that have been on that trip, and you guys all seem like you stayed pretty close. Um, you had opportunity. Tony invited you to a wrestle night of conflict at least once. Did you do more than one or just one?
Yeah, I did twice.
Twice. Okay, so both Sioux City times.
Yes.
Okay, what is the IA Wrestle Night of Conflict experience like? I mean, it's very, very few get to experience something like this.
Yeah, it was really big and I was so nervous for it because it's just you on that mat. Everybody is there to just watch that match. And so I was definitely nervous, and both of the matches that I had didn't end the way I wanted, but I still had it was just such a big opportunity, and it just made me feel so like it's an unreal experience. Like you have the lights, you have the smoke, you have a walkout song. It's just so it was just amazing. And my family always went and watched and supported me whether I won or lost, and I just learned so much from those matches because I wrestled some really good girls, and it was at the beginning of the seasons, and so I got to work off of those matches and learn what I needed to work on before the season had even started. And so I really was grateful for those opportunities because they just drove me even more to get better and to learn new things that year.
Who'd you end up wrestling those two? I'm trying to remember back, but I cannot.
I wrestled Reagan Rossiter, my first one,
Okay.
and then Destiny Crum.
Okay. Yep. Reagan is I really like Reagan. You might actually run into her at a tournament this year, maybe somewhere. Because I'm not even sure where she's wrestling because she graduated last year too, if I remember right.
Yeah, she's either graduated last year or she's a senior this year.
Oh, maybe she is. Reagan's good person. Really like her. And then Destiny, of course. Destiny graduated last year with you, didn't she? If I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
Is she wrestling anywhere? I haven't
I'm
heard.
not sure. I haven't seen anything much, but
Yeah,
she
I'll
definitely.
have to look her up. I always liked her too. You were in the transition between the IWCOA tournaments and the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union. I mean, you were at the big one where it was silver division, 64 people in a bracket. What was wrestling in that environment like? Because that's probably one of the biggest 2-day tournaments you're ever going to wrestle in. What was that like?
Yeah, it was the turn from the IWOCA or whatever
Yep.
it's.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lot of initials.
Yeah. But the transition from those two tournaments, one, my school seemed to take it a bit more seriously, and so I had a lot more support school wise, and so I think that helped a lot. But it was a huge tournament, and it it was just so many girls, and so I was so nervous all the time. But my coach was always prepared, and he was preparing me all the time, and so it was definitely a big change. But I always felt like I was going in prepared, no matter how big the tournament or no matter how good the girls. And it was just also amazing to see how fast the sport can grow in the time where they just officially made girls wrestling a sport.
Yeah.
And so that was really like, it made me so happy because just one official sport just can change everything, because some girls were either afraid to go out or just didn't know about it. And so the big announcement that it was a sport clearly just grew the sport immaculately. Like it blew up. And so
Yeah.
I think I it was definitely a big change, but I always felt prepared, and I always was really grateful for how much it was growing.
Yeah. So you were probably actually in line ready to do a match when they announced that the girls sanctioned wrestling. What
Yeah.
was, I know how my emotions were in the stands because I was watching the whole opening ceremonies of the finals night, up there, the Grand March, and I had a lot of tears. What was the excitement around the girls on the floor?
Yeah. So my sophomore year, I was actually injured, and
Okay.
so I couldn't wrestle my that
Oh,
tournament, but I was there because
oh,
I was
okay.
watching everybody. Yeah. And so it definitely would have felt a little bit more different if I was actually wrestling, but I was still at the tournament. And so right away when I heard that, I was just like, wow, like this is real. Like what I'm doing is I'm a part of history. We're all a part of history. Like it's just gonna keep growing and getting bigger. And so I was just really, it just felt like not a weight lifted off my shoulders, but I was just so grateful to actually be considered a sport, because we all work the same amount as all the guys and every other sport. And so it was just a really good feeling that we could actually be considered a official sport.
Yeah. And now that you got to wrestle in the sanctioned version of the tournament, I know your senior year you placed third. Is that correct?
My senior year, I got second.
Second. Okay. Then it was third your junior year, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I did my research poorly. Poorly. So what was it like, just being, especially the first year of sanctioned wrestling and going and signing your name on that bracket, and just all of the girls union did such a good job of putting on a show. And what did it feel like? What was that like?
Yeah, so I when I was there the entire time, my school was supporting me, and it was just an unreal experience because I hadn't had that support before from my school, because it was just another activity that I was
Yeah.
doing on my own. But having that support behind me from my school and my family and just everyone in general, it just felt really cool to actually like feel like what I'm doing is like official and real. And so I just really enjoyed it. And I was definitely nervous because everybody was watching, but just the entire environment was amazing. Like they really showed up with the way that they set up everything, and you could just tell they put a lot of thought and work to it. And so that just it felt so good to feel that important, to have all that work done just to make it like a really good experience. And so I loved all the pink. Everybody was controversial about the pink, but I'm like, hey, pink is pretty girly, so
Yeah, it's all right.
yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about you've had a lot of injuries in your career. You've gone through, I mean, last year I was at Ogden and saw your back injury, and man, I just felt for you because it's like your senior year and it just seemed like you couldn't catch a break, right? I mean, it just what have all of your injuries been, and how have you been able to overcome that? Because that's really hard on the mind, it really is, but you seem like you're really doing well. So how have you overcome that?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I hyperextended my elbow. I think it was like 2 weeks before the state tournament, and it was a pretty gnarly hyperextension. We had to do a lot of work with it, and my first tournament back was, I think, the state tournament.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was really nervous because it was my first state tournament, and I hadn't been able to do anything for the past 2 weeks. I barely started drilling the week of. And so I was just so nervous, and it definitely was a challenge, like overcoming that in my head, because I was just like, all these girls have been working so hard the entire season, and I haven't been doing much for the past 2 weeks. Like I didn't know what to expect. And then I went out and placed third, and so that was just another like, I can do this moment. And then my sophomore year, I had, what was it, my sophomore year? Gosh, too many to remember. but but my hands, I broke my hand my sophomore year, and so then I had to get surgery on that.
Oh,
And I
geez.
had been unable to compete at the state tournament that year, which made me really upset because I had just built up all that confidence from the year before and had worked so much harder to get better than what I did last year. And so it was just really disappointing to not be able to compete. But it was definitely a learning experience, and some time away from the mat was pretty good for me because I just got a time to observe everything and take a break for myself. And so I think that it was once again like a learning experience in itself. And then my junior year, I can't, it was like towards the middle of the season. My knee just like blew up like a softball, and it was huge at the Colfax tournament. It just out of nowhere. And so after that, we just really had to figure out like how to work with it, because it would keep swelling up every single time I would hit it on the mat. And so it was really hard dealing with that, because I'm a really neutral wrestler. And so all of the shots I would take and everything, like I would have to hit the mat at some point. And so I had to learn quite a bit of different things, so then I wasn't using my knees as much. And I think that was very helpful for me, because I was I was dependent on my shots all the time, but not being able to take those shots just allowed me to work on my hand fighting and moving the person from my hand fighting. And so I think that was definitely the benefit of that injury, which it's hard to see the benefits, but it definitely was probably the biggest benefit from my knee injury, was just being able to work on all the stuff that I hadn't been working on in the past, because I couldn't use my knee as much. And then my senior year, my first meet out, I went to go lift a girl, and then I strained my entire back and blew my back out, and I couldn't do anything until I want to say like December-ish is when I started wrestling again, but I hadn't practiced, and I've been just resting and doing a bunch of different things off the mat just to try to help my back and whatnot. And I keep saying this to everybody that I mentioned my back injury to, but I really wish that it would have happened like early on, like my freshman or sophomore year, because it really like flipped a switch in my head to where my shots, I had to shoot them with my butt down and my chest up, because I couldn't use my back as much, because I was always just like scared of hurting it again. And so that really like helped me clean up my shots my senior year, when I actually started to get back into wrestling again. And so every little injury I had had some challenges, but I had to like learn how to wrestle around it. And so I definitely think that that was the biggest benefit of those, because one, I got time away from the mat, so I could watch a little bit longer and watch other people and learn new things. But then also I had to work around the injuries and learn how to wrestle in different ways and in different styles, in order to help my body recover and also like avoid the injuries that I just had. And so they're definitely tough and hard on your head, because you just give up at some points. You're like, is it really worth it? But it really is worth it in the end. Like you're capable more than you think, and your body just, it sometimes can hold you back. But if you believe that you can, then you can overcome all the injuries and all the hardships that come with wrestling.
That's really good. You've had it rough, but you're probably better off for it, coming into your college career. It's going to be good. One thing I want you to do for me, and this is going to be the old coach in me. Every time I hear you say you're nervous, right? I'm nervous. I want you to change that, because nerves and excitement are the same emotion. And I'm sure your coaches talk about mindset and how to, and changing, the way you talk to yourself. If you change that, I was really excited about the match, instead of I was really nervous, it turns it into a positive, because it's the same emotion. Still get butterflies, sweaty palms, those types of things. So that's my advice for you. All right. So I like to, it's not necessarily an end, but I give these pretty much the same questions to every girl towards the end of our time, and just to spark some conversation. You already kind of said one of the things. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is definitely blue.
Is it blue? I would have guessed red, because I always stalk a little bit. I have to get pictures, and you can send me some pictures too of wrestling and not wrestling stuff too, but it seemed like you wore a lot of red. Yeah, so
it just came with all the Charger gear. We always had to wear red. I'm glad to get away from that. Orange isn't one of my favorite colors either, but
I was gonna say, if it was, we could have had you up at Ridgeview. That'd have been fine with me. But no. Yeah, I've had to get used to the orange and black too myself. Actually, to tell you the truth, you said pink, and I never would wear pink before in my lifetime. And now I've started to adopt some pink. I even bought pink shoes to coach in this year. So I actually customized them. So yeah, we'll see when
Hey,
we'll see when those get broke out. So if you were going to take a vacation, would you go to the mountains or would you go to the ocean?
this is hard. If I was with my family, I would probably go to the mountains just because I like hiking and exploring stuff with them. Like me and my mom, after some tournaments, we would go and find a random trail because we'd always travel for the tournaments. And so we would always find a random trail and go hike or just walk around and look at the new things. But if I was on my own, I would definitely say the beach just because I like just chilling out sometimes on my own and just taking time for myself. So I don't know. It's kind of a one way question. Or, it could be
You could
50-50.
go
Yeah.
either way on that, huh?
Yeah.
So you might have to maybe take spring break out with Hannah Davis. And because she's out, she said she's always out
Oh,
in the mountains and stuff. So maybe you'll have to go take spring break out in Arizona. So are you a cat or dog person?
oh, I'm 100% a dog person. I have a pillow of my dog in my dorm right
Oh, what
now.
kind of dog do you have?
She's a pit bull terrier mix.
Nice. I have well, they said American Bully, but I'm gonna guess she's a pit bull mix because I don't think she's, but they're sweetest dogs you'll probably ever run across. Yeah.
Yeah.
But her brother is a pug. So she thinks she's a pug. She's,
Aw.
he's 20 pounds, she's 70 pounds, but yeah, it doesn't quite work out, but she's scared of him, which is crazy.
Yeah, I miss my dog a lot. Like every single day I think about her.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the toughest parts about going to college is leaving the pets behind. I remember that same thing.
Yeah.
Did you have a pre-match ritual?
Yeah, I always have a certain stretch that I would do. And also whenever we had the ankle bands, but now we don't, I would always walk across the circle to the line and put my ankle band on and then turn around and go back to the center. So then that would kind of like get my nerves away and whatnot. But now that we don't have ankle bands very often, I gotta figure something else out.
Yeah, you got to have that something to flip that switch and figure out,
Oh yeah.
going from really nice Leah over here to I'm going to beat the crap out of you, Leah, on the mat, right?
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of music?
I'm definitely a rap person. I like listening to a lot of rap, but I also like to slow it down sometimes with some like R&B songs and whatnot. But I also like throwback songs. It's kind of like a mood
Uh-huh.
depending on what mood I'm in. Yeah.
So, but now we're going to talk it, bring it into the wrestling world here. You got your earbuds in, or you got your headphones on. What's the song before you're going to go out and wrestle?
My favorite song to listen to is Me Versus Me because it's just basically a song about just getting in your head and like it's just you versus you at that point. And so that was every single after every or before every single match my senior year, I would listen to that song and we we were supposed to have walkout songs for our finals match, but that didn't happen. I think they chose them for us. And
Uh-huh.
so I wrote it down at the bottom of the paper just in case, but it's okay. That's definitely why I didn't win
Well, yeah, I'm going to blame that. I will call Erin. We should get her on the phone
it.
right now, and she cost you a state
Hmm.
championship. I would say that. So you've already answered this question, and so freestyle or folk style?
Freestyle for sure.
Freestyle for sure. Your style lends itself very much to freestyle, and I'm
Yep.
glad. I that's great because we've talked a little bit and others about the new rule set in high school for the 3-point takedowns. I think that's
Hmm.
pushing us towards that 1 point of contact. I almost wish they would go with that step out point, because
Hmm.
I think that'd prevent a lot of stalling anyway, because you're going to work to
Yeah.
the center. So, well, I know this question too, and I always ask them if when the coins flipped, are you going to choose top or bottom? And you're going to choose neutral every time, aren't you?
Yep.
So that question's completely mute.
If
Um,
I had to, I would definitely choose bottom, but
but you
Gosh.
don't have to worry about that. So now freestyle, what's on top? What are you, a leg lace? Are you a gut wrench? Are you a high gut wrench? What's your thing?
So I'm still not very hot at parterre, but I just didn't like how much we had to flip. Like I barely got any experience with freestyle wrestling
Hmm.
um, before I came to college, and so I'm still not very good. But definitely a leg lace is kind of my safe spot, just because if you gut wrong, then
You
you'll
get
get
stepped
turned on,
over.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and so I like to go with the safer route and kind of just work on my leg laces because it's a little bit safer for me anyways, and so I've been really working on my laces. Probably
Yeah.
is the best position for me on top.
Yeah, on your gut, I was told this by a female coach. If you know the your hip bones are a little higher than guys, and stuff. So if you can get low on that hip bone, it might help you
Mm-hmm.
out a little bit more. You did wrestle at Fargo. I did. I think I forgot to say it. How was your experience up at Fargo? I hear all kinds of great. I've been there one time. Is it? And it's an amazing tournament to watch. What was it like to wrestle at Fargo?
Yeah, so I wrestled my sophomore year and my senior year at Fargo. My sophomore year, I was like very new to it and I knew how big of a deal it was. And so I think I lost in the blood rounds or right before the blood rounds. And so it definitely I was like, I was almost there, but
Uh-huh.
I also knew the caliber of the wrestlers there, and so I didn't take it to heart too much. And it was one of my first experiences wrestling freestyle, and so it was definitely just a different experience and such an amazing environment to be in with all those people. And I watched the finals that year too, and I watched Molly Allen win it, and so it was so amazing to once again just have a full girl or team of girls who were like crazy amazing. Like all the girls that go to Fargo are so good, and the team we had brought my senior year, it was huge. We had a huge team, and so it was definitely like once again just like overwhelming, but at the same time I knew what I was expecting because of my sophomore year. And so I don't remember how I did. I think I went 2-2,
2-2.
but I just was really there just to kind of, and Brady got to coach me last year, and so that was like another really comforting thing is just knowing that my coach was there, and I had never experienced him coaching me before, and it was just another like, all right, I chose the right place.
Yep.
So it was very comforting.
Well, good. I always leave a little bit of time here, and we've actually been talking almost an hour, which is it's okay. That's all right. I upgraded the Zoom so it doesn't cut me off anymore. That makes it's so much better. So I always leave time for kind of some final thoughts, and it doesn't even have to be wrestling, but if you want to talk to any of the younger girls, because I know that they look up to you guys. You always have people watching, and I know you've known that it's bigger than yourself. I've known that. So, what do you got to tell them?
I say just whenever you feel like you want to go out for wrestling, or if you are going out and you're just unsure about your capability of everything, like just keep working towards it. It's really a sport that once you grow to love it, like you learn so much about yourself. Like I've doubted myself so much in the past, but once you overcome those doubts and just kind of get out of your head a little bit, it's helpful on the mat, and it's also so helpful off the mat. Like I've came into so many obstacles where I'm like so stressed out, or like I don't think I can do it, but just knowing that I've been through what I've been through with wrestling in general, it's just comforting feeling knowing that I'm capable of more than what I think. And so it's just so amazing seeing all the girls going out, because it's such a different, like you're putting yourself out there, and it's a single, like you're the only one on the mat, you're the only one determining the outcome of your matches, and you're even like not in competing wise, like at practice you have to determine how hard you work. And so as long as you work hard and just stay out of your head as much as you can, you will grow so much more than you think in and out of the sport of wrestling. And I think that's just one of the most amazing things about wrestling.
Well, very good. That was a great statement. You know, it's pretty impressive. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of the girls that in your age group, 2 years different and stuff. And I know you guys weren't the first wrestlers. You weren't the first girls that wrestled in the state of Iowa or in the country, but it's the group of girls that you are and that have built the sport of wrestling in the state of Iowa because you've been personable, because you've been people that they can look up to and good role models. And it's been really fun. You know, I got to coach you early on in your high school career, but I've got to watch you throughout your career, and it's been really fun. And I'm excited to watch your college career. So thank you for being on. We might have to do this later after you win a national title. Does that sounds like a winner there? All right.
Yes.
But no, I appreciate it so much, and good luck the rest of the year. And I'm going to hit the stop button here, but stay on for a minute.
All right. Thank you.